So good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Maine moment meditation on this January evening. Let's start by really bringing our intention now, our pure motivation, to our practice this evening so that we really have mindfulness really imbued in our body, speech, and mind as we're really cultivating our path. And remembering how precious it is that we have this opportunity to practice together, and also remember that everything is impermanent. So just as we have this opportunity to practice right now, we may not always have it. So we can rejoice in our pure motivation for taking time to put into our practice. And we'll begin by taking refuge in bodhicitta. Sangye chodan soki chognam la jangchu bardu dagni kyapsu chi dagi jinso ki pe sonam ki jola penchir sangye drupar sho. Sangye chodan soki chognam la jangchu bardu dagni kyapsu chi Dagi Jinso Gipe Sonam Ki Jola Penchir Sangye Drupar Sho. In the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, until enlightened, I seek refuge. Through merit from giving and the rest, to aid all, may I become Buddha. The Four Immeasurables. Semchen tamche de wadang de we gyudan dempar gyur chi. Semchen tamche dugnel dang dugnel gi gyudang drel wart gyur chi. Semchen tamche dugnel me pe de wadang mi drel wart gyur chi. Semchen tamche ne ring chadang nidang drawe tang yom la ne part gyur chi. May all sentient beings have happiness and its causes. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and its causes. May all sentient beings never be parted from sorrowless bliss. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from bias, attachment, and hatred. May all sentient beings have happiness and its causes. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and its causes. May all sentient beings never be parted from sorrowless bliss. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from bias, attachment, and hatred. And praise to Shakyamuni Buddha, who's the teacher of our era now that we're in. Lama Tompa Chomdende Dejin Jekpadra Chompa Yang Dakpar Sope Sangye Rikpadam Jabsu Dempa Dewa Shikpa Shikten Kempa Kebul Duwe Kalo Girwa Lana Mepa Lada Minam Ki Tompa Sangye Chomdende Pelgyawa Shakya Tupala Chak Selo Chodu Kyapsu Chi-o Lama Tompa Chomdende Dejin Jekpadra Chompa Yang Dakpar Sope Sangye Rikpadang Jabsu Dempa Dewa Shikpa Shikten Kempa Kebul Duwe Kalo Girwa Lana Mepa Lada Minam Ki Tompa Sangye Chomdende Pelgyawa Shakya Tupala Chat Selo Chodu Kyapsu Chi-o. To the founder, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer of the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. When, a supreme among humans, you were born on this earth, you paced out 7 strides and said, I am supreme in this world. To you, who are wise then, I prostrate. with pure bodies, forms supremely pure, wisdom ocean like a golden mountain, fame that blazes in the three worlds, winner of the best, Lord, to you I prostrate. With the supreme signs, face like spotless moon, color like gold, to you I prostrate. Dust free like you, the three worlds are not. Incomparably wise one, to you I prostrate. The Savior having great compassion, the Founder having all understanding, the field of merit with qualities like a vast ocean, to you, the one gone to thusness, I prostrate. The purity that frees one from attachment, the virtue that frees one from the lower realms, the one path, the sublime, pure reality. To the Dharma that pacifies, I prostrate. Those who are liberated and who also show the path to liberation, who are devoted to the moral precepts, the holy field qualified with realizations, to you, the sublime community intending virtue, I prostrate. Homage to the Supreme Buddha, homage to the Dharma refuge, homage to the great Sangha, to all three ever devout homage, to all worthy of respect, bowing with bodies as many as all realms, atoms in all aspects, with supreme faith I pay homage. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions, perform only perfect virtuous actions. Subdue your mind thoroughly. This is the teaching of the Buddha. A star, a mirage, the flame of a lamp, an illusion, a drop of dew or a bubble, a dream, a flash of lightning, a cloud. See conditioned things as such. Through these merits may sentient beings attain the rank of all-seeing, subdue the foe of faults, and perturbed by the ways of aging, sickness, and death, be delivered from samsara's ocean. Guru Yoga of Je Tsongkhapa, the Ganden La Gyema. From Tushita's hundreds of gods, protector's heart, to the tip of the fresh, pure white, heaped curd-like cloud, O Lobsang Dragpa, Dharma's omniscient king, pray come to this place with your disciples. In space ahead on lion throne, lotus and moon, venerable Guru, smile brightly with delight. As supreme merit field for my mind of faith, pray stay hundreds of eons to spread doctrine. Your wisdom mind sees full range of knowables. Your eloquent speech adorns fortunate ears. Your beauteous body, famed glory, outstanding. Homage to you, worthwhile to think of, hear, and see. Pleasant offerings of water, various flowers, fragrant incense, light, perfume, and so on. Oceans of offerings set out and envisioned, offered up to you, supreme field of merit. Non-virtue heaped up since beginningless time, which I have committed with body, speech, and mind, especially what has contradicted three vows. Each I confess from my heart with strong regret. In time of strife, you strove to learn and practice, shunned 8 mundane concerns, made life essenceful. O protector from depths of our hearts, we rejoice in your powerful great deeds. Venerable gurus from love and wisdom, clouds densely massed in your Dharmakaya sky, pray loose a rain of vast profound Dharma on fields of disciples just as needed. May whatever virtue that I've here gathered bring benefit to all living beings and doctrine, and may it make Venerable Lobsang Dragpa's essential teaching specially shine forever. Avalokiteshvara, great treasure of infinite compassion, Manjushri, Lord of stainless knowledge, Vajrapani, conqueror of all demon hordes without exception, Tsongkhapa, crown jewel of the land of snow sages, Lobsang Dragpa, I make requests at your feet. Lobsang Dragpa, I make requests at your feet. O glorious and precious root guru, pray take seat of lotus on my crown, caring for me with your great kindness, bestow attainments of body, speech, and mind. O glorious and precious root guru, pray take seat of lotus at my heart, caring for me with your great kindness, bestow attainments common and supreme. O glorious and precious root guru, pray take seat of lotus at my heart, caring for me with your great kindness until supreme awakening remains steadfast. And then we'll just say the mantra of the Heart Sutra. Tayata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhi Swaha. Tayata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhi Soha. Tayata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhi Soha. So tonight, we're not reading the whole Heart Sutra because we want to do a bit of a meditation that needs a little more time to really sink into it. And it's called Shamatha and Vipassana. And it's really necessary to really get this practice going for our meditation to go where we want it to go. So we want to just think about getting at least a very stable meditation practice of 15 to 20 minutes where we can really hold our focus and concentration without becoming the mind distracted by thoughts and plans, or by getting too relaxed and getting distracted by sleepiness and too much relaxation. So this word meditation really kind of in our practice in Buddhism, these two kinds of meditation. The first is shamatha, which means calm abiding. So just stable focus of letting the mind stay on the object of concentration without wandering. And then the next one that follows up after the shamatha is stable is vipassana, which in Tibetan Buddhism is analytical meditation, insight, deep insight, where we analyze and we really look, who is meditating, what is being meditated upon, what is the nature of the meditation in its impermanence. So tonight we're going to start with this shamatha practice with the object of the sensation of breathing, because it's very easy. We have our breath with us everywhere. And we're going to practice on the sensation of breathing by just putting our full attention on the sensations of the inhalation and exhalation. And eventually through this practice, we begin to experience what's really a calm mind, and it becomes tranquil in the sense that we're cutting off all other impingements that come through the senses. So we're really isolating away from the objects that we see through the senses of sight, that we smell, the sound, taste, and tactile senses, the 5 very coarse senses, to really isolate what's called the 6th sense of just the mind. And so these objects that we use for this calm abiding, or what's also called tranquility meditation, are tranquilizing. Obviously, if we want to have a calm mind, we have to use tranquility to get it calm. And if, as we know, to have an excited mind, then we do things like watching television or going to a disco, or getting distracted by all kinds of things on the computer, or conversations or plans. So excitement's easy, that comes up all the time. And whatever excites our mind is a strong vibration. It pulls us away from, being very present and calm, to getting caught up in our thoughts, our future plans, music that we like, movies that we like. Our mind is quite distracted by the outer experience much more than being able to settle inwardly. And our culture is quite brilliant at that, actually. So what we're really trying to do is now turn away from that outer excitement and to really come to this tranquilizing object. And when we do this, because our habituation, our habits in this world, in this lifetime, are much more turned towards these outer excitements, it can be more difficult to really get to a deep tranquility. But that's why we call it practice. We're going to just bring our mind on board in wanting to do this, so that watching our tranquilizing object isn't terribly boring, it becomes terribly fascinating. In other words, the fascination is where we want our mind to stick. So we want to be fascinated with the breath. We want to unify the attention with the breathing process, just with the inhalation, breathing in. There's the awareness of just breathing in, and breathing out, just the awareness of breathing out. So for this kind of ability to develop, so that we can feel really excited about doing just this tranquility meditation, we need to arouse effort from our mind, because breath is really not that interesting. It's not that romantic. It's not that adventurous or scintillating. It just is as it is. So we have to arouse effort, because, we're not going to get any stimulation from the outside. We're going to just be satisfied with the breath and be content with that. So we're not going to try to create any images. We're just going to concentrate on the ordinary feeling of our body as it is right now. So first of all, get very comfortable in the position that you're sitting in and really let your spine be straight. That's the most important. Have a nice posture, because once we get into the meditation, it will go for quite a while, 20 or 25 minutes. So we want the body to really kind of melt away so our attention can come 100% fascinated on the breath. And the breath will become more and more refined as we calm more and more down. So this is the tranquility practice. And let's begin with that. So we want to sustain our attention on the breath. When we sustain the attention, we'll become absorbed or become one with the object. We actually feel a sense of oneness with the object that we've been concentrating on. And this is what's called absorption. So we're going to start with this for the first 10 minutes or so, and then we'll move to Vipassana. So just free your mind now to just come one with the breath. Breathing in, inhalation. And take one or two places that you follow breath. So either at your abdomen, as the body fills up with breath, you can focus there. That's an easier place because there's movement of the body. As your attention becomes more refined, you could shift your attention to right underneath the nostrils, where the breath is moving into the body. And after the exhalation, there's a natural pause that will begin to develop. So just let the body become completely one with the breath, and your awareness is just watching. Your alertness just 100% aware and watching whatever's happening where you've just So now that you've established your shamatha, calm abiding, we'll shift to vipassana, or insight meditation, analytical meditation. With insight meditation, we are opening up the mind to everything. You don't have to choose the breath anymore to concentrate on or absorbed into, but watch in order to understand the way things are. Now we can see about the way things are through the sensory experience being impermanent. Everything we see, hear, smell, taste, or touch, all mental conditions, feelings, memories, and thoughts are changing conditions of the mind, which arise and pass away. In Vipassana, we take this characteristic of impermanence or change as a way of looking at all sensory experience that we can observe while sitting here. This is not just a philosophical attitude or a belief in a particular Buddhist theory. Impermanence is to be insightfully known by opening the mind to watch and being aware of the way things are. It's not a matter of analyzing things by assuming that things should be a certain way, and when they aren't, then trying to figure out why things are not the way we think they should be. With insight practice, we are not trying to analyze ourselves or even trying to change anything to fit our desires. In this practice, we just patiently observe that whatever arises passes away, whether it is mental or physical. So this includes the sense organs themselves, the objects of the senses, and the consciousness that arises with their contact. There are also mental conditions of liking or disliking what we see, smell, taste, feel, or touch, the names or labels we give them, and the ideas, words, and concepts we create around sensory experience. Much of our life is based on wrong assumptions made through not understanding and not really investigating the way anything is. So life for one who isn't awake and aware tends to become depressing or bewildering, especially when disappointments or tragedies occur. Then one becomes overwhelmed because one has not observed the way things are. In Buddhist terms, we use the word dharma, which means the way it is, the natural laws. When we observe and practice this way, we are no longer blindly reacting to the sensory experience, but instead deeply understanding it, and through that comprehension, beginning to let go of it. We begin to free ourselves from just being overwhelmed or blinded and deluded by the appearance of things. Now, to be aware and awake is not a matter of becoming that way, but of being that way. So we observe the way it is right now, rather than doing something now to become aware in the future. We observe the way it is right now. We observe the body as it is, sitting here. It all belongs to nature, doesn't it? The human body belongs to the earth. It needs to be sustained by the things that come out of the earth. You cannot live on just air or import food from Mars or the moon or Venus or wherever. You have to eat the things that live and grow on this earth. And when the body dies, it goes back to the earth, it rots and decays and becomes one with the earth again. It follows the laws of nature, of impermanence, of creation, sustaining and destruction, of being born and then dying. Anything that is born doesn't stay permanently in one state. It grows and grows and grows. It grows up and gets old, and then dies and passes away. All things in nature, even the universe itself, have their spans of existence, birth and death, beginning, sustaining, and ending. All that we can perceive and conceive of is simply change. It is impermanent. So it can never permanently satisfy you. In Dharma practice, we also observe that this unsatisfactoriness of sensory experience cannot lead to our lasting happiness. But we also are practicing in order to find out what can. Now, just know in your own life that when you expect to be satisfied from sensory objects or experiences, you can only be temporarily satisfied, gratified, maybe momentarily happy, and then it changes. This is because there is no point in sensory consciousness that has a permanent quality or essence. So the sense experience is always changing. And out of ignorance and not understanding, we tend to expect a lot from it. We tend to demand, hope, and create all kinds of things, only to eventually feel terribly disappointed, despairing, sorrowful, and frightened when these things don't come to be. Those very expectations and hope take us to despair, anguish, sorrow, and grief, lamentation, old age, sickness, and death. Now, this is just a way of examining sensory consciousness. The mind can think in abstractions and can create all kinds of ideas and images. It can make things very refined or very coarse. There is a whole gamut of possibilities, from very refined states of blissful happiness and ecstasies to very coarse, painful miseries, from heaven to hell, using more picturesque terminology. But actually, there is no permanent hell and no permanent heaven. In fact, no permanent state that can be perceived or conceived of. In our meditation, once we begin to realize the limitations, the unsatisfactoriness, the changing nature of all sensory experience, we also begin to realize that these experiences are not me or mine and not a self. So realizing this, we can begin to free ourselves from identification with sensory conditions. Now, this is done not through aversion to them, but through understanding them as they are. It is simply a truth to be realized, not a belief. Anatta, or no self, is not a Buddhist belief, but an actual realization. Now, if we don't spend any time in life trying to investigate and understand it, we will probably live a whole life on the assumption that we are our body. Even though one might think at some moment, oh, I am not the body. We then read sometimes all kinds of inspired poetry or romance or some new philosophical angle, and then think it's a good idea. But we haven't really realized that one isn't the body. We haven't really deeply realized that. Even though some people, intellectuals and so forth, will say, we are not the body is not self. That is easy to say, but to really know that is something else. To really realize is something else. Through this practice of meditation, through the investigation and understanding of the way things are, we begin to free ourselves from attachment. We no longer expect or demand then of course we don't feel the resulting despair and sorrow and grief when we don't get what we want. So this is the goal, nirvana, or realization of non-grasping of any phenomena that have a beginning and an ending. When we let go of this insidious and habitual attachment to what is born and dies, we begin to realize the deathless, the observer, the one that's aware. Some people just live their lives reacting to life because they have been conditioned to do so, like Pavlovian dogs. If you are not awakened to the way things are, then you really are merely a conditioned, intelligent creature rather than a conditioned, stupid dog. You may look down on Pavlov's dogs that salivate when the bell rings, but notice how we do very similar things. This is because with sensory experience, it is all conditioning. It is not a person, it is no soul or personal essence. These bodies, feelings, memories, and thoughts are perceptions conditioned into the mind through pain, through having been born as a human being, being born into the families we have, and the class, race, nationality, dependent on whether we have a male or female body, gender identification, attractive or unattractive, and so forth. All these are just the conditions that are not ours, not me, not I, not mine. These conditions, they follow the laws of nature, the natural laws. We cannot say, I don't want my body to get old. Well, we can say that, but no matter how insistent we are, the body's still going to get old. We cannot expect the body to never feel pain or get ill or always have perfect vision and hearing. We hope that we do, don't we? I hope I will always be healthy. I will never become an invalid, and I will always have good eyesight, never become blind, have good hearing. So I'll never be one of those old people that others have to yell at, and that I will never get senile, and always have control of my faculties till I die at 95, fully alert, bright, cheerful, and just die in my sleep without any pain. This is how we would all like it. Some of us might hold up for a long time and die in an idyllic way. However, tomorrow all of our eyeballs might fall out. It's unlikely, but it could happen. However, the burden of life diminishes considerably when we reflect on the limitations of our life. Then we know what we can achieve, what we can learn from this life. So much human misery comes out of expressing a lot and never quite being able to get everything one has hoped. Some human misery comes out of expecting a lot and never quite being able to get everything one has hoped for. So it is these expectations that we have to be aware of and become realistic with. In our meditation and insightful understanding of the way things are, we see that beauty, refinement, pleasure are impermanent conditions, as well as pain, misery, and ugliness. If you really understand that, then you can really enjoy and endure whatever happens to you and in the world. Actually, much of the lesson in life is learning to endure what we don't like in ourselves and in the world around us, being able to be patient and kindly, have a sense of humor, and not make a scene over the imperfections of the sensory experience. We can adapt and endure and accept the changing characteristics of the sensory birth, aging, and death cycle by letting go and no longer attaching to it. When we free ourselves from identity with it, we experience our true nature, which is bright, clear, and knowing, but is not a personal thing in any way anymore. It is not a me or mine. There is no attachment, no attainment. Actually, we can only attach to that which is not ourself. We can become fascinated to the awareness. The Buddha's teachings are merely helpful means, ways of looking at sensory experience that helps us to understand it. They are not commandments. They're not really religious dogmas that we have to accept or believe in. They are merely guides to point out the way things are. So we are not using the Buddha's teachings to grasp them as an end in themselves, but only to remind ourselves to be awake, aware, alert, that all that arises passes away. This is a continuous, constant observation and reflection on the sensory world, because the sensory world has a powerfully strong influence over us. Having a body like this with the society we live in, the pressures on all of us are fantastic. Everything moves so quickly. Television, the technology of the age, the cars, the phones, the computers, everything tends to move at a very fast pace. It is all very attractive, exciting, and interesting, and it pulls the senses out. Just notice when you go out your door, how all the advertisements pull your attention out in a store, to food packaging, to new products, traveling through the airport, new liquor stands, cigarettes, chocolates, foods. The attention is being pulled into things you can buy, you can eat, you can smell, you can taste, you can touch. Always going towards rebirth into sensory experience. The materialistic society tries to arouse greed, so you will spend your money and yet never be contented with what you have. There is always something better, something newer, something more delicious than what was the most delicious yesterday. It goes on and on and on into the cycle and circle of suffering called samsara, pulling you out into objects of the senses, drowning in them like that. But when we come into the shrine room, we are not here to look at each other or to be attracted or pulled into any of the objects in the room, but to use them for reminding ourselves. We are reminded to either concentrate our minds on a peaceful object or open the mind, investigate, and reflect on the way things are. We have to experience this, each one for ourselves. No one's enlightenment is going to enlighten any of the rest of us. So this is a movement inwards, not looking outwards for somebody who is enlightened to make you enlightened. We give this opportunity for encouragement and guidance so that those of you who are interested in doing so can do so. Here, you can, most of the time, be sure that nobody is going to interrupt you in pursuing this goal. Buddhist monasteries and nunneries and shrine rooms are refuges for this kind of opening of the mind. This is our opportunity as human beings. As a human being, we have a mind that can reflect and observe. You can observe whether you are happy or miserable. You can observe the anger or jealousy or confusion in your mind. When you are sitting and feel really confused and upset, there is that in you which knows it. You might hate it and just blindly react to it, but if you are more patient, you can observe that it is a temporary, changing condition of confusion or anger or greed. But an animal cannot do that. When it is angry, it is completely that, lost in it. Tell an angry cat to watch its anger. We haven't gotten too far with Clarence, although his meditation is coming a bit off far. He stopped biting and he's more calm, but he doesn't really know exactly why. He just knows he feels good in the shrine room. So for us, this is our golden opportunity to practice having this precious human rebirth all the way up to enlightenment. We can use our senses to reflect and know. We can know when our mind is going under greed. We can know that when we see delicious food in front of us and the movement in the mind is the same then as a cat's would be towards its food. But we can observe that the animal attraction to things in us through the smell and the food looking good and the salivation in our mouth, we can see then that there's something arising. And it doesn't mean that we don't eat. Of course we do, but it means that we are mindful of what's happening in our senses. This is using wisdom by watching the impulse and understanding it. That which observes greed is not greed. Greed cannot observe itself, but that which is not greed can observe it. This is observing what we call Buddha or Buddha wisdom, awareness of the way things are. So let's come out of this Shamatha Vipassana meditation, bringing our awareness back into the space that we're occupying with mindfulness. And I just want to say thank you. This meditation comes from Ajahn Sumedho, who's a wonderful bhikkhu, a Theravadan practitioner, and wrote this beautiful book called Mindfulness, the Path to the Deathless. I met him at Ven Tenzin Dassel's nunnery a few years ago. He's a wonderful practitioner in the Thai forest tradition, and he is the founder of a monastery in England. And this is a very basic practice. This is the beginning of how every Buddhist tradition is going to use the breath. Watching the breath in the Sanskrit is called Anapanasati. Anapanasati. And so this is literally means mindfulness, sati, of the in and out breath. And this is a beautiful meditation because we can do it every day and every moment, as often as we can bring our awareness back to the breath, to just keep coming in present moment awareness of everything flowing and going, when we're sitting and waiting for an appointment, when we're sitting in traffic, when we're taking a bite of food. Sometimes, as I mentioned, I would observe Jetsuma. She'd take some food and then put her fork down, and then she'd finish chewing. She'd just look into space, and I'm sure she was doing awareness again. So This is a practice that really helps train the mind to just be very aware of a flow and really become more connected with that observer, the Buddha nature. Clarence is quite pacified now. So, that's what we really want in our practice, is to become more aware of being the observer of the Buddha awareness, the Buddha nature, than being drawn into the tactile, coarse level of what we perceive through the other five senses. Of course, it doesn't mean we don't enjoy them. We'll enjoy them more, actually. The more refined the awareness becomes, the more fine this experience of everything else becomes. It becomes a much more refined and beautiful light experience. And then we're not as driven by those physical sensations. Those difficult emotions become much easier. We can laugh at things. We can become more spacious and patient. We can say, all right, this appointment's taking a while. Good. Now I have more time to sit here and go on to my practice. And your mind's just going to become that's going to become the most fascinating thing that you want to do, instead of anything else of the habits that have drawn us away from that. So turning that inwards. Any questions or comments before we do our dedication? Did you like that practice?
Wonderful.
Oh, good. Wonderful. I really like it too. I mean, I do other kinds of practices, but this one we can always come back to because it's really foundational. It's really the foundational. And this is really why the Buddha taught. He taught, 84,000 different kinds of teachings, but this Anapanasati is really like supreme. And, we've recorded, I think Janet's recording, so it will go up. We started a new YouTube channel that will put in an email address that has some of these. So this is a wonderful guided meditation that you can also listen to again, so that it's easier. You don't have to read a book or try to guide yourself through memory. It's sometimes easier to hear it that way. So thank you, everybody. Let's dedicate our beautiful merits that we just cultivated by spending this time together. You can turn to page 21 in our prayer book and say the long, long life prayer for His Holiness, the Dalai Lama. Most of it actually, it's a long life prayer for Khenzo Rinpoche, but he's so modest, he insisted that most of it is actually a long life prayer for His Holiness. So we'll say it for both of their long lives, and as well as for all of our other practitioners and our Sangha community on the path here at Tashi Getzeling, and everyone else who's practicing wholeheartedly to bring the most benefit. I offer prostrations and prayers with single-minded faith to the gurus whose kindness is unequaled, and who, with skillful means and without an instant's rest, reveal to living beings so illusory the path of benefit and happiness, without moving from the sphere of dependent arising and the elimination of elaborations, having gone to bliss by the path of valid cognition and incontrovertible dependent arising, to the Buddhas, deities, and personal deities, Vajradhara and the rest, to the lords of the three lineages, protectors, and to the assembly of great heroes and dakinis, O compassionate supreme beings, please bestow on me good fortune. May you be victorious, O supreme noble being, Avalokiteshvara, deeply kind master, destined to be the deity of the land of snow's beings, just as prophesied by Amitabha, the teacher Buddha, epitome of the four bodies, and so on, who, having upheld and tamed Tibet, expanded the power and influence of the Tibetan teachings and government with the activities of a Dharma king, an ancestral king, and the like, and increased the human population and brought them together with material goods and teachings. Though after long Dharma decline, obstacles and hindrances arose, you again performed unsurpassable kindnesses here in Tibet, increasing the opportunities for happiness in the Tibetan teachings and governance through emanations of the greatly compassionate one and the like. Furthermore, during the perilous time when Tibet became like a hell on earth due to the occupation of the Red Chinese, because of the kindness of powerful Avalokiteshvara, the supreme 14th protector, religion and government could breathe a sigh of relief. When one searches for the object imputed, there is no essence, just as it is with the plantain tree. Yet, due to the dependent arising of causes and conditions, there is the tragedy of this great threat to the sage's teaching, root of happiness for the land of snow, and all beings are mothers. I pray for the long life of the King of the victorious ones, the supreme protector who brings well-being to all living beings, to the teaching and especially to Tibet, through his unequaled courage and altruistic spirit of enlightenment, which are equal in measure to all the troubles. I pray for the long life of all those who uphold the teaching, who do so without bias, and who take responsibility for its increase and preservation by first understanding the victorious one's teachings in general, and in particular the Tibetan teachings of the Yellow Hats, to be the root of all beings' happiness, and then by practicing and explaining them. In particular, I pray for the one who knows all the scriptures with the power of his intelligence to have a long life through the solid strength of his mind and his mastery of life, in order to benefit the teachings and all beings with his good, wholehearted resolve. In general, the disappearance of the supreme protector of all beings and the teaching draws near. In particular, the land of snow's teachings and government are in crisis. It is a bodhisattva deed to uphold the teaching and work for the benefit of all beings by wholeheartedly assuming the responsibility of the thought to help them. Therefore, in this time of great peril in the degenerate age, I pray for you to have a long life wherein you have considered the general and the particular with a special altruistic spirit, perseverance, patience, and discernment, and in accord with the magnificent thought of the snowy region's protectors. And we'll go to page 26. Through this virtue may I swiftly, having gained Guru Buddha state, place each and every sentient being without exception in that state. Precious supreme Bodhi mind, may it where unborn arise, and where born never decline, but increase forevermore. Mig me se wei ter chen chen rezi, di me ken pe wang po jam pel yang, gan chen ke pe su gen son ka pa, lo zang drak pe shabla so wade. And we especially remember and dedicate all the merits from this practice to the Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh's highest transmigration as he goes to his parinirvana. May all of his wonderful and most excellent walk of the Dharma and Bodhisattva path be a blessing to all mother beings until samsara is emptied. And may we all be inspired to attain Buddhahood for the benefit of every sentient being through his most excellent life example. Thank you, everybody, for joining this Maine moment on Monday. And we hope that you have a lovely week and look forward to seeing you in the near future. Stay cozy and stay blessed.
Thank you.